Right, let's get the show on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Tolkien. And I am letting in our host with the most, Mr. Clifford Broadway, the producer and writer of Ringer's Lord of the Fans, and a man about Totoro Town.
Yeah. Hi. How's my audio? I'm just making sure my connections are working. I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay? Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes. In honor of Miyazaki taking over the entire internet conversation about AI and Studio Ghibli and the recent falderal that they had, and in honor of the 4K upgrade of Princess Mononoke being released in USA and Canada theaters nationwide, here we are. I'm so excited. And you know what? It's about artistry. Today, we celebrate artists and amazing artistry, including the winners of winner singular of our March Madness competition, Middle Earth March Madness, out of
Only
control this
one
year.
can win.
Only one can
Hundreds
win.
of thousands of entries, tens of contestants, but only one can win, and
Yes,
none of them
yes,
are
it
anime.
is. To answer the chat, yes, it is a Gorillaz album, but it's really a parody of, Cowboy Bebop. See you, Space Cowboy.
We've been playing Middle Earth March Madness for the last month or so, just like the basketball teams have been doing it, and we finally have a
congrats
winner.
to the Gators.
So let's.
Hey, Florida! Congratulations, Gators, for winning the NCAA
Oh, that's right. You're a
championship.
Florida man. If you didn't
I have
know,
to admit that
Clifford is
on
a
the rare
Florida man.
occasion, and I don't ever admit that out loud. But yeah, Florida man. ... news headlines. They're usually not about me. I just want you to know that.
Well, let's bring in our intrepid team. We got Jim Wirt, Matt I. Gamgee, and Kirsten Cairns.
Oh, look, it's Jim Wirt and Kirsten Cairns. Oh, my God, I love you people so much. It's so good to see you again.
Hi, everyone. Who is this Kirsten Cairns of whom you speak? I go by Green Dragon in these quarters. What her right name is, I don't know, but round here, most call her Green Dragon.
I see.
Quite right you are.
Names.
Right you are.
I've always felt like the odd man out because I don't have an online nick. I'm just Justin.
We could have given you one a long time ago, right?
Oh, we can go to work on that one.
Yes, we can. Yes, sure.
You just don't know. You do have a nick. We just haven't shared it with you. I get. But I'm.
Yeah, why is the chat room agreeing with you? I don't like this.
I'm glad to be here at the end of All Things Middle Earth March Madness with you guys. Amen. 3 weeks of voting and sharing and discussing and chatting, and today we reveal the winner. And I think Jim has prepared some little looks back for us at what we've seen. But most of all, I hope everyone's had fun with it. We always hope that Middle Earth March Madness is fun. This year, I have particularly enjoyed the theme this year with the art. I hope people have discovered some new artists that they didn't know before. When Donato Giancola was on the show, he was saying, "Oh, I didn't know this artist," and so. I hope people have found some art. Maybe you've ordered some art. Maybe you've ordered some prints from some of these artists. Yeah, Jim has. So I hope everyone's been having a good time with it, and we will reveal the winner this very evening.
Oh my goodness! Goodness gracious!
I'm glad Jim and I are classing up to join. Put our collars on today.
Trying to, yeah.
It's like an award show here. Let's bring up the the presentation here.
The deck.
So Jim,
yes.
Walk us through this. We started with 64 Tolkien artists, and each artist only got one entry, which was tough.
Yeah, just like the NCAAs, it's who shows up on the night. And so you can kind of see that's the final four, and on the final two, a little hard to read, but we're going to slide all the way to the next slide because we have been voting for the last 4 days, three or 4 days, on these two finalists. One that I am sure is well known, that is Alan Lee, and the piece that we picked from him was a very moody, backlit, ethereal, misty Edoras. No characters in it, but absolutely setting the scene, and a pretty classic Alan Lee kind of an approach to Tolkien illustration and art, against Turner Mohan, who candidly is probably an unknown. This was one of the ones that Donato Giancola looked at that and said, I think this is fantastic. He loved The Crown, for example, even as impractical as it was. Turner Mohan is a New York City artist. He's mostly done pen and ink kinds of things. He's moving in more and more into watercolors. And he's also a medieval armor crafter. And you can kind of see some of that influence even in this piece. A really different kind of a piece. It still is very moody. It's from First Age and Silmarillion stuff, so maybe less familiar to folks than certainly Edoras is, because we've seen that in movies. And Kirsten has pointed out that a lot of times we were down to, is this a familiar scene I've seen or is recognizable versus something that's really completely unrecognizable.
Right.
And so that was a very intriguing thing.
Reminding folks, I know a lot of you have heard us say this before throughout the 3 weeks, but it was about one picture from each artist. It wasn't about the entire back catalogue of an artist. So, for example, and I know we may get into some of this a bit later, but John Howe was someone who left the competition remarkably early, surprisingly early, given it was John Howe. And some people commented, yeah, but if you'd picked a different John Howe, that's not my favorite John Howe. But that's the thing. It was about picking some pictures that we liked, that amongst staff, people said, oh, this is my favorite, or what about this one? What about that one? Getting some variety and then just having some fun with it. And I love that we ended up with a well-known artist and a well-known image, an image that harks to Peter Jackson's movies, that even if you were a movie lover only, you would absolutely recognize this image. And on the other side, a much less known artist and a much less known image. If you're not a book fan, you're not going to be aware of Luthien's encounter with Morgoth. So it's a really interesting dichotomy here. But both have this kind of misty quality to them, which I find very enticing in both of them. Both have such interesting use of light, the sun shining through from the back, as you said, Jim, the backlit Edoras, and then this kind of glowing Luthien down in the bottom left of the picture there. So there are some similarities. I think they're both absolutely awesome pieces, and I think it's really cool, as I think Katie pointed out in the chat, an artist that she didn't know made it to the final. And I think that's true for a lot of us. This is an artist we didn't know, a scene we're less familiar with, an artist we do know, a very familiar scene. And what a cool matchup for the final.
It is an interesting dichotomy. A great deal was just pointed out, Kirsten, and you're so right, my dear Green Dragon. People don't know Turner Mohan as much as they do so many of these other artists that we've offered in this bracket. I went over just now to Turner's Instagram page. He has 961 followers. Let's get it up to 1,000 before the end of this broadcast. Before the end of our Torn Tuesday, let's everybody go to Turner_Mohan on Instagram and get him up above 1,000 followers. Let's do it.
I love the fact that it's two completely different genres in all aspects. You have a landscape with no humans, and you have humans with no landscapes. I mean, they are in the void. There is nothing to look at other than two persons. They're not humans. That's the wrong word. But so you have two totally different kind of categories of illustration. Secondly, you have a full color versus a black and white. Third, you have a painting versus a graphite on paper. Which is graphite is what's in your pencil. But he's using art pencils here to get that kind of very black and white. So, in all aspects, these are completely opposite styles of artwork. So it just incredible that the fans elevated both of these to the championship round, and it just goes to show that I think one of the lessons that I'm taking away from where the pulse of fandom is right now is simple is better. You don't need everything in the kitchen sink in your piece of art, in your adaptation. You don't need to include all the things. Just focus
Right.
on one thing that is very Tolkienian, and we
We had
respond.
examples of that too, Justin, where we had many images that kind of had the kitchen sink and everything else in them. And that's not to detract from those. We had a Chinese piece that was almost stained glass like. We had Jerry Vanderstelt and his montage of
Mm.
the Fellowship of the Ring, as he's done with all of the Jackson movies, and they're beautiful and composed and thoughtful. But I think you're right. There is a kind of simplicity. I really like the fact that with the Luthien and Morgoth, there's almost an appropriateness because this is actually an art battle. I mean, Morgoth starts out the entire legendarium by deciding he's going to have different kinds of music versus where Eru Iluvatar is going. And in this scene, it is Luthien's song that actually defeats Morgoth. Not quite yet, but that's what's being set up. And
Right.
so we've got in music an art battle being portrayed, just as like we've had in the entire Middle Earth March Madness this year, art battles, one against the
Ooh.
other.
Maybe
So
next year's
what-
theme could be clips of music. Maybe next year we could do
Ah.
64 Middle Earth music clips, audio clips. That might be a fun theme. But Justin, I liked what you said. I agree about the simplicity. Maybe isn't quite the word I would use because as Jim mentioned, we had some montages with loads of things in, but I think it's that authenticity that really matters to people, and simplicity and authenticity do often go hand in hand. So I think what fans are wanting to see is that the artist, whether they be movie makers, illustrators, music makers, that they really care about what they're doing and they really mean what they're doing. And I think that really there's a real heart of authenticity to these pieces.
I want the chat room. I don't have the poll feature set up in YouTube, but so chat, just put in the chat. I want to know what you guys voted for. We already have a winner, but let's take a look at how our chat room voted.
It may have been something that wasn't in the finals.
Yeah, totally.
Because there
Your
were a lot of
favorite.
strong pieces. Well, and actually, that might be a good setup for the next couple pages, Justin, because I tried to give a bit of a path to the finals idea here. And they each had a different path. Again, the Edoras was coming out of our landscapes and environments arena. So most of what the Alan Lee piece was up against were different kinds of environments. You can see, just little thumbnails. Probably his closest competition was with Donato Giancola's Walls of Moria. That was a 55-45 kind of a split. But you can see in general, the Edoras piece was pretty dominating. It was 70+% or the high 60s for almost all of the tournament. And so he was going to be a strong contender. I think Kirsten, you or Green Dragon, you mentioned early on that you thought that Edoras was a piece to beat.
Yeah, I did. It was actually as we were discussing the first round pictures, and there was so much art that I loved in that first round. But as we were talking about it and just looking at this one, I was like, oh, I think this is going to go all the way. The more I gazed upon it, the more I was like, oh, I think this is my choice for grand champion. So we'll see if I backed the right horse, but that was my instinct as I spent time looking at all of the 64 pieces.
The Adoras piece overcame really, really strong artists and illustrators. When you look at Roger Garland or Kip Rasmussen, certainly Donato, and the Horn of Boromir with Matthew Stewart, all of those were really popular throughout the whole tournament. But Edoras proved more durable than the contenders up against him. The next page is a contest.
How close Donato got compared to all the other
Yep.
works it was up against. And I wonder if that's because he joined our live stream So I'm taking a mental note. Like we should try to get whoever's a contestant next year. If we do music, I mean, we totally got to get the author of the music of the Lord of the Rings in here and really like have a battle.
Oh, for sure. We would. And that's a good point, Justin, as you say that. I know we would have said this, but it makes me think to say it right now. We want to say again a huge thank you to Jerry Vanderstelt and Ted Naismith and Donato Giancola for taking time to come and join us on some live streams and chat about the art, and also show us some exclusive behind the scenes sketches for preliminary work and photos with backstories and inspiration. And Donato even showed us his latest painting, which is now up on his Facebook, but it was an exclusive reveal on the One Ring.
Exclusive.
So, yeah. So big thanks again to those three gentlemen for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. It was delightful, always delightful that so many luminaries in the creative world of J.R.R. Tolkien like to come and visit in our community. We have over the past 20 odd years, we've had, amazing sword makers and armor makers and people who do behind the scenes. Obviously, we've interviewed Guillermo del Toro himself and Peter and Fran and Vigo and his son, Henry. We've interviewed everybody, but they love to come and talk to the community. And Green Dragon, you're so right. We have to extend our thanks to these artists who came in to chat with us. I regret that Colleen Doran could not come to join us. She's been so busy working on really difficult deadlines for a big project. So, but I know she extends her love and her gratitude to the community here as well. Of particular note in the Luthien and Morgoth piece is the scale, the incredible David versus Goliath sensibility. The scale of one Valar against one elf maiden. It is, can you imagine how fearsome and terrible it must be? I mean, if you were in that position and you're the size of a Smurf up against this incredibly powerful, monstrous evil, and that to me is the dynamic of the piece that makes me want to vote for it. Although I love Edoras and I love how classic, John Howe is. There's something about what he's created with the Luthien and Morgoth piece, and it's the scale of terror, and this bright, beautiful hope as she is. It's a masterpiece of light and shadow, as they call it in the art world, chiaroscuro. Look at how bright and shining she is as this polarization of light against this incredible darkness. I really love it. I really do.
There are other pieces of Morgoth battling elves, especially Morgoth versus Fingolfin for you Silmarillion fans. But as you say, Cliff, this is a really unique piece. I mean, those are kind of battle scenes and swords and hammer of Brond and all kinds of real combat. This is so ethereal and yet so decisive. Ultimately, you can see the path that Turner Mohan and the Morgoth, the Luthien versus Morgoth had. It was much more rigorous. Literally, if I took two of the contests, the combined margin of victory was 6 votes.
Wow.
So he just escaped the Radagast the Magician, the Angelo Montanini's piece, just escaped from the David Wenzel Gandalf at Your Service in the final 4.
Right.
And that was a combined total of 6 votes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that, this piece almost went out in the second round to Radagast the Magician. Very, very close. Almost went out in that round. And yet here it is in the final. So that's kind of cool and fun. And I just like seeing that path.
And I think part of the reason that a lot of these were so close, again, at first glance, I don't think a lot of people would vote for this, but we did all these live streams because we wanted to give everybody watching kind of a way to appreciate the artwork for artwork's sake, and I think the entire panel here has done a great job over the last few weeks, explaining why each piece of art is relevant, why it's interesting, all the reasons to vote for it. So and the fact that some of these were this close,
I
incredible.
love that someone's just said in the chat, Morgoth's crown seems to be growing out of his head. That's one of the things that I love about it, that it doesn't look like he's wearing a crown. It looks like his head kind of is this bizarre. And I just think that's so cool. It's so, it doesn't look like, it almost doesn't look like Tolkien. It almost looks like something out of manga, or, it sort of has a Godzilla type look, or it's just, and I think that's also the scale, the way he's striding forward, that I really could see this being some great monster rising from the deep like that.
This is the kaiju Morgoth. Yes,
exactly.
The big
Exactly.
kaiju, yes.
I loved how Donato said, he said, boy, that would be really inconvenient to walk around the halls of Angband around with a crown that size, man. You'd run into everything.
High ceilings.
So he's kaiju size, because in this I thought Luthien was like Tinkerbell and he's just normal size. I got it wrong here, Cliff?
Yeah, you totally have that sense of scale and proportion wrong. I love you, Justin, but come on. She is
there's nothing in the background to give me perspective. There's nothing in the background to tell me this is big or small.
Let's assume that Luthien is somewhere between 5'8" and 5'10", maybe. Okay, maybe if she's an elf, half elf, she might even be 5'11", 6 foot tall. So maybe.
Well,
that means he is 4 stories tall. He appears to be almost 4 stories tall to me.
Yeah, totally. Kaiju Morgoth is exactly right, Cliff.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that set up our final.
I forgot to set up our audio drum roll cue, and I do that. I forget every year. I don't know why. So, man, who wants to do the honors?
Here we go.
Go.
Any guesses?
The 2025 Middle Earth March Madness Grand Champion that you at home voted for. This is the fan community putting this one over the top. The winner is
Edoras, the 2025 champion.
And it's amazing microclimate. Yes.
71% of the vote. So again, it was a solid, convincing Edoras
But
victory.
interestingly, Jim, I remember you mentioning that, like, in the first day of voting, that the Luthien and Morgoth piece did have the lead for a little while.
To an early lead, it did. It certainly did.
So I just want to say now at this point that if any of our people watching were folks who entered the giveaway that we had from our good friends at Warner Brothers, that if you correctly predicted that Edoras was the one. So if you remember, or for those of you who maybe didn't know about the competition, our good friends at Warner Brothers very generously offered to give away hard copies of The War of the Rohirrim, which is, of course, its own piece of Tolkien art.
Yes.
And we set up a giveaway competition that if you, during the round of the Elite Eight, when there were still 8 pieces left, if you entered by picking the one you thought would win, then we would, at random, from those people who correctly picked it, we would pick winners from that. So if you correctly chose Edoras as the one that would win, our friends at Warner Brothers have very generously said that they will send either a Blu-ray or an ultra high def copy of the movie to everyone who correctly guessed Edoras. So if you entered and you correctly guessed Edoras,
congratulations!
Yeah. So there's only one winner in the art, but there are multiple winners of that. And whilst I'm mentioning that, I just this week, I think you've mentioned this in Torn Tuesday before, but I finally got hold of.
It's so good.
Wow.
It's so good.
Yeah, The Art of the War of the Rohirrim. I love these art books. This one goes with the art of the 3 Lord of the Rings movies. The art of the 3 Hobbit movies, same size book. And this is just, I'm a completist anyway, but I was like, I have to have this. And it is absolutely beautiful.
It
Like
is.
Cliff, I don't know as much about anime as Cliff does, but I am a huge fan of Totoro and all of those things, and so I had to have this. But I mean, just look how beautiful this book is.
Look at
I
that.
love it.
Yes.
Amazing.
And
So-
we did confirm there was a question, it was brought up on Reddit a couple weeks ago that there might have been a misspelling in that book for who is the lieutenant? Targ.
Yes.
You know, if there were 2 R's or 2 A's in the name, we've heard on good authority that the spelling in the book is correct. And if you saw the names spelled anywhere else differently, that was the mistake. So the book has been proofread and editorial checked as by humans for humans.
So are there 2 R's? Are there 2 R's, Justin?
I can't. Which one was the right one? I'm trying to. Let me see if I can bring up my notes here.
The one you mean?
Cliff's got the book in his hand right now, and he's
looking right
he's
here.
looking it up.
So they say the spelling in the book is correct.
Yes.
General Targ in the book is spelled Tarrg. That spells Tigger. The tops are made out of rubber. The bottoms are made out of strings. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke, but it's
I was
interesting.
going for the pirate joke, but yeah.
Targ. Tarrg. Now, I was watching War of the Rohirrim with the captions on last night, and it was spelled in the captions as Targg. That might be where there's some confusion from the captioning that's in the movie. So
Interesting. Well,
Yes.
anyway, so if you entered our giveaway, and if you correctly guessed Edoras would be the winner, then you will be receiving whatever you chose, whether you chose a Blu-ray or a ultra high def 4K, you will be receiving that directly from Warner Brothers. And big thanks to Warner Brothers for allowing us to do that giveaway.
I would say send one to the winner of the contest, but Alan Lee worked on the movie. I'm pretty sure he already got a copy.
Send one to Turner Mohan, obviously. So yeah.
Maybe we should reach out to the runner-up on Instagram and get his followers up.
Yeah,
you know, hit
up to
hit
1,000.
that like on Instagram. And do we have that on the slide here? Let's see.
Well, I can tell you the One Ring is now following Turner on Insta. I went and hooked us up to follow him. So
Cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's at
Turner
DeviantArt.
Mohan.
So you can find him there.
Find him on Instagram and maybe what a great piece of art. So yeah, the winner for 2025 is Edoras by Alan Lee. And you know, like, it's just familiarity is always something in these contests, but you can't argue with the quality and the craftsmanship and the execution of this art.
So
It
true.
really is.
Were there any pieces that hung out longer than you expected or exited earlier than you thought they would?
I think I already mentioned that John Howe went out earlier than I expected. And
This one, right?
John
no,
Howe
that's
was the Barrels Out of Bond was the John
Barrels
Howe
Out of
piece that we
Bond,
had
that's
in
right.
there.
This one.
And
Right.
Yeah. He went out in the second round.
Yeah, and I thought people would vote. This was really interesting to me because I thought people would vote for him just because it was John Howe. And as I said, quite a few people said, "Oh, why did you pick this one?" Yeah, I remember we had to talk about the water looks funky and shouldn't flow like that. I disagree, but anyway, but it was one of us volunteer staffers who said, "This is my favorite John Howe." So we said, "Great, we'll put that one in." And so I really thought it was kind of heartening to me in a way. No disrespect to John Howe, who is the most lovely guy, and his work is fabulous, of course. But it was heartening to me that people were voting for the picture they liked or disliked, rather than just voting for the artist. So I thought if people had just been going, oh, it's John Howe, this would surely have gone all the way through. But people were saying, no, I don't love this particular John Howe. And so I was surprised, but sort of pleased that people were really taking time to look at the art rather than just thinking about who did it.
And it was the Kit Rasmussen Thingel and Melian piece that was really resilient through the whole competition that knocked John Howe out.
Yes.
These were, so that one.
There it is. There's the Kit
Sweet
Rasmussen
16
piece.
Yeah.
So did the Hildebrandt brothers go out in the first round?
First
Is that
round.
what I just saw come up on the screen?
Yep. So that was a surprise to me. That well, and that may just because I'm a child of the '70s, so I remember them. It was so vivid.
Indeed.
And it's interesting because when who was it died recently? Greg Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did a memorial show for him a few weeks ago, and through showing his artwork and then showing Rings of Power, there's so many comparisons to how Rings of Power looks with its $1 billion budget, and you can see a clear color, style, and framing reference to some of the Hildebrandt artwork. It's almost like if John Howe and Alan Lee inspired Peter Jackson's movies, the Hildebrandt brothers seem to be inspiring Rings of Power, even if they haven't said it yet. Cliff, you remember that, and so I'm surprised that this didn't get further.
So am I, but that maybe there's just a lot less of us, geezers voting. Maybe.
I have to say, and this is no disrespect intended, but I have never been a fan of the Hildebrandt style, and so. Yeah, it wasn't that surprising to me that it went out, except I do know that a lot of people love it. So I suppose it was surprising. There's something about the Hildebrandt style that always feels a little too, dare I say, when talking about Tolkien, Disney-fied. It just has a kind of clean, fairy tale look. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, and Ted Naismith was very interesting when he came on the show and was talking about his Silmarillion illustrations and how he wanted them to have a feeling of fairy, something ethereal about them. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but for me, you can see that this definitely has a sparkle and an otherworldliness and an ethereal quality to it in the kinslaying. But there's also realism.
Mass murder in the front and the foreground.
Yeah, exactly. Blood and gore. I don't know. But anyway, for me, the Hildebrandt brothers have always felt a little bit too cartoony. That is no disrespect to them as artists. Just their style didn't have a sort of realism to it that I wanted to see. So
I agree, but I said my piece early on in the competition. But Cliff, you were really obsessed with this. I feel like you had your money on Maurice Sendak.
I thought Maurice Sendak would really bring that kind of whimsy. You don't get whimsy in The Lord of the Rings, but you get tons and tons of whimsy in The Hobbit. It's as the way that Philippa Boyens once described it. It's a golden hued fairy tale, and we look through a different lens of storytelling when you look at The Hobbit, which begs the conversation maybe another day of how The Hobbit ended up going from a golden hued fairy tale to an R-rated Battle of the Five Armies that had more Sturm and Drang in it than Peter Jackson trying to align The Hobbit into a different tone of storytelling to match The Lord of the Rings. But that's his whole affair. And that's probably one of the reasons why the fandom responded a little bit differently to the Hobbit films, perhaps. But Maurice Sendak effortlessly captures that charm and that whimsy that you expect from the Hobbit. It's effortless. Yeah. So I thought he would have been a big winner from that. Yeah. Just
like the publishers. I mean, this Maurice Sendak only did 2 pieces. Roak mentioned that he hadn't seen this piece before, and isn't surprising. And it was a weird story. It was a magical combination for the 30th anniversary, U.S. anniversary of the Hobbit edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the publisher said this will be a giant seller, but it missed in translation. Maurice Sendak's agent screwed up the labeling of pictures. It got crosswise with Tolkien, and all of a sudden, what was going to be a magical edition with lots of Maurice Sendak art was killed at the outset.
No
And it's
way.
similar to this contest. It's like, well,
Wow.
Maurice Sendak did not advance beyond the first round. So,
Well, if that edition had come out, then maybe there'd be a whole generation of people who are more familiar with him in that
yeah,
at that level. Yeah.
we're
You're
stuck
right.
with where the wild things are. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I see that Tim in the chat said, I definitely voted for the Sendak on the artist more than the work. Same, Tim. I was just like, oh, where the wild things are, I love Sendak. Oh my gosh, I'm going to vote for this. But Cliff, you're so right. Imagine if a whole bunch of us had grown up knowing that illustrated Hobbit edition, if that had come to pass and that had been the Hobbit that we'd grown up with Sendak's illustrations, then how different that would be. That's really interesting.
To be honest, I must admit the influence of the Japanese artists on my visualization of The Hobbit from the get-go, because my edition of The Hobbit was about this big, almost as big as this art of the War of the Rohirrim book. It was a trade paperback. It was filled brim to the brim with Rankin and Bass artwork, including full cells of animation, production stills, and then there was lots of extra sketches and watercolors and lots of extra things that the Japanese artists added to the edition. And it incredibly influenced my little 10-year-old brain, or the way I thought that the hobbits and the dwarves and Smaug looked like a giant angry kitty cat who had that incredible booming voice. So yeah, that you're right. That thing is now I feel bad about the kids who grew up with those horrible Ballantine books covers that had those really unfortunate illustrations. You know the ones I'm talking about?
You're talking about Barbara Remington, one of the interesting throwback, the odd ones.
Oh, not the
Yeah,
Barbara Remington
yeah.
ones, the ones that came
Oh,
in the early 80s. The
oh,
ones,
okay.
you know,
Right.
where Gollum has a hooked nose and bright
Ah,
green eyes, and Bilbo looks like a chubby little weeble wobble person. You know, it's just, oh my gosh, it was just terrible stuff. I do not know the name of that artist because I don't want to disparage anybody any more than I have already. But my gosh,
I threw in a few examples to that idea at the very end of this whole document, Justin. Just some odd ducks, odd memories. There were some pretty strange pieces, especially versions of Gollum that we may have never have seen before, or the core block Oliphant, or a Joan Wyatt Shelob, the Barbara Remington covers from the earliest paperback edition in the U.S. There were some fun pieces
oh
that
yeah,
probably were never going to win, but it was fun to include them.
I love
Yeah.
that giant frogman Gollum. It's adorable. So great.
yeah, it's
Listen,
great.
gents, I'm going to have to love you and leave you, I'm afraid. I'm sorry that I can't stay longer this evening, but I want to say thank you once again, Cliff and Justin, for allowing me to crash Torn Tuesday and for being such excellent hosts throughout our Middle-earth March Madness and allowing us to be part of it. And thanks to everyone who joined the fun and voted. And I'll let you guys carry on with your discussion, but I've got to run. So thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for
Thanks,
all
Green
you
Dragon.
did for this too, Green
It's my
Absolutely.
Dragon.
pleasure. See you next
Yeah.
time.
Wonderful to
Yeah.
have you with us, Green Dragon. Thank you. And here we are. And
Indeed.
then there were three.
Well, I really liked how we got early sketches of
Yeah.
Ted Naismith's Kinsane of Alquilande, and what a real treat! It's very rare to get to see the underpaintings, basically, of
Right.
great classic art. I mean, you know, you go to art textbooks, you know, and you know, they taught, you can have whole chapters on Renaissance painters and their significance in the paintings, but you hardly ever get to see the underpaintings and the early versions of what became iconic pieces. So the fact that Ted opened up his portfolio and showed us the process of that, and same with Donato. You know, we got to see how, you know, how he was thinking about this. Again, this was painted in 2021, and he started working on it during lockdowns and pandemic, obviously, with some explorations. And then, of course, Jerry Vanderstelt explaining how he got the license just by doing art and going to Comic-Con and being recognized for the quality of his art.
Wasn't that a great story? That was so great to hear that. So great.
So just incredible pieces. Interesting. I did want to like go through some of these surprisingly resilient. Downfall of Numenor.
Yeah.
I think Rings of Power is going to have a hit on their hands when they get to this part of the story. The fact that this piece got so far.
I think this was one of the pieces where people, the more they looked at it, the more they fell in love with it. I think some folks, for example, said, I didn't even notice that there was this giant Ulmo god in the background. I just thought it was clouds. And yet when you start kind of focusing in, you're seeing this aura of judgment. The great Tolkien wave is about to come and hit Numenor. And you're right, this is going to be massive as far as the plot that's coming up with the Rings of Power. And the whole downfall. So it was a moving piece, and I think people really they obviously warmed up to it. They probably didn't know Edvika Feini that well, but really enjoyed learning more about this piece.
Cliff, do you think the show is going to go there, like this painting, and we're going to actually see the great god of Middle Earth represented on screen for the first time ever?
Oh, that would be amazing. I don't know if they're going to show Ulmo, the power of the Valar themselves, but they're on the hook to do something like this. Let's just put it that way. The expectation is there that this is not to be presented as a natural disaster. It's supposed to be the wrath of the gods themselves coming down against Numenor. So they're on the hook to show something equally spectacular. I would say that.
Monica in the chat room says the face in the clouds looks like the stranger. And wouldn't that have been interesting if the stranger in Rings of Power was actually Ulmo? Like that actually would have been incredible to have a reveal of Ulmo. And he's stranded in the desert so far away from water, you know, and that's why he's weak.
Yeah, but then again, you'd have a lot of people really pissed off because there's nowhere in the mythology where one of the Valar forget who they are. That just doesn't happen. So
have an imagination, Cliff. Come on, we got stories to tell. We got lessons to learn.
We've got mother-in-laws to kiss. We've got to make out with our mother-in-law, don't we?
We have journeys of self-discovery to make.
Yeah, go ahead. You go kiss your mother-in-law and see how that works out. Sure.
We talked a little bit about Kip Rasmussen. The chat room loves Kip. Yeah. This was one of Green Dragon's favorite. She loves stars in the sky. This was
one that was going on her wall. Indeed.
Yeah. I want this as a blacklight poster, you know, with the black felt and then the blacklight paint. I would totally put that up.
I didn't even know you were a child of the 70s, man.
Blacklight posters became popular back in the 90s.
Well, I
went to Hot Topic a lot. Yeah, they became repopular. And turns out that style is coming back. If you go to Hot Topic or Spencer Gifts, the blacklight poster is coming back.
Really?
So is Gecko Hawaii, which is like insane. So
oh gosh, that's funny.
What's old is cool again.
Wow.
This is one of our favorites, and I forget one of our artists that we had on the stream
Oh, I do love
really
this piece.
Right.
to this.
Right.
Was it?
This was such an interesting piece. It's not identifiable. Maybe it's Sam and Frodo, maybe it's Merry and Pippin, maybe it's two unidentified hobbits. It's just such a pastoral piece. It just says Shire and it says rest here. And I think that's
Hmm.
why it was so popular. It made it all the way to the Elite Eight, almost made it to the Final Four.
That's
Really
incredible.
see. I would have thought that, if I'm not mistaken, it was Donato Giancola who had a great affection for this piece when we were interviewing him. I think
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but
Um,
well, he
keep in
particularly
mind,
mentioned the Morgoth and Luthien piece, and
yeah.
then this was another one of those just a beautiful piece. This was ultimately, I think, matched up with the Thingol and or the Luthien and Morgoth piece, so very sharp contrast. But this was just it's Goldberry in her water lily. So Anna also made it deep into the contest in the Elite Eight.
lovely. The
Yeah, Aravandi, you're correct. We got to track down all the Instagram and socials so people can follow these artists, and maybe we need to make
totally
an article for the homepage about that, like you, because I want to follow a lot of these people. Um, their work is incredible.
absolutely. Do you know why Little Rivers has a unique space in Lord of the Rings names and places? It's because when they were in the production for the Lord of the Rings, they had a code name for the Lord of the Rings, so that if the script was lying around, nobody would know what it was, and it had a fake cover, and it was called Jamboree. 10 years later, everybody knew that. Like, Jamboree was the secret code name of the Lord of the Rings screenplay. And when the Hobbit trilogy was actually a Hobbit duology, its nickname was Little Rivers.
Well, there you have it.
That was the secret
Maybe
nickname printed on every Hobbit screenplay, was Little Rivers.
Well,
Yes.
maybe Sonny Alcorn Hender knew that, and that's why she
Yes.
made this. Yeah,
There you go. Well, in
indeed.
case you joined late, we just announced the champion of the 2025 Middle Earth March Madness. We got tens of thousands of votes. I'm always impressed the amount of engagement and people voting, even if they're not on our chat room every day. We have people talked about it in our Discord, but the reaction to being introduced to all these new artists, as well as celebrating maybe hard to find art from big name artists, that's rewarding in itself. The act of discovery is just so much fun. I don't know what you guys if you guys have any final thoughts on our Middle Earth March Madness.
It's been a
Hmm.
fun. I think this was one of the most competitive that I can remember, just up and down the board, as far as the closeness of so many votes. The fact that we had literally our finalists winning by such thin margins, but there were a lot of close votes and a lot of enthusiasm. And it's clearly indicating that art speaks personally to people. And so that that strength of multiple competing impressions really came through in the way that folks voted. So it was a fun tournament.
That was a really great idea, to curate this many images and artists to have a competition spread out like this. It was great. So my tip of the hat to you, Jim. Hard work, a lot of hard work, and to Green Dragon for putting that together, and everybody else who helped behind the scenes. Really great stuff.
I got a
Great
question for the
selection.
chat. If you guys have loaded up the map here, the whole contest round, but I want the chat to respond. But first, I want to ask you guys. We've got brand new movies coming out from Peter Jackson and Andy Serkis. We've got new seasons of Rings of Power, and we got new video games like Tales of the Shire coming out. Do you want to see any of these unique artist styles? implemented in these new things coming out from the big studios? Or are we comfortable staying in the Alan Lee, John Howe oeuvre?
Oeuvre, the oeuvre.
Oeuvre.
Good French pronunciation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, is it time to get a little more design creative?
Well, in some ways, you're poking the Guillermo del Toro bear on that, because we almost went there, I think.
He was going to
But
have some radically different stuff. You guys
Yeah.
realize that he was going to have Beorn's house get up and walk around on chicken legs like
Oh
Baba
wow!
Yaga, like the folkloric, Slavic folk story of the Baba Yaga, who has a witch's hut that climbs up and walks around on chicken legs. Yeah, Del Toro was going to do some crazy, crazy stuff that was really different from what we're used to.
And that was your Miyazaki
palette.
Minute.
Right.
It was the movie that got away, the Hobbit that never was.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do you think they should return? Do you think the studios should have a little more confidence in getting creative?
Well, I think if it's an extension, it will be hard. I think that's why we saw the War of the Rohirrim like we did. While it has really beautiful, especially the backdrop pieces, but it is definitely rooted. I mean, literally the same kinds of props, the same kinds of settings, the same kind of furniture are drawn right out of the movie, and that kind of makes sense. I suspect that's what's going to be the search for Gollum is going to be. I mean, they're casting presumably some of the same kinds of people. Andy Serkis is involved. It's hard to escape that orbit. If they ever remake The Lord of the Rings, and it's been 20 plus years now, then I think they have to do that. They have to have another different kind of a vision. It can't just be, well, we're going to remake the Jackson movies. I mean, I think that'll fall as flat as some of these live action Disney movies are. That I want I want a different view, and I don't want it to be crazy disruptive. I'm not sure I like chicken leg Bjorn houses.
Yeah, I know.
But give me somebody else's vision, inhabit this world in new ways. And I think I would love to see that. If appropriately and respectfully treated, but it doesn't have to be the Hal Lee versions of this world.
And even Rings of Power, they've only talked about John Howe. They put John Howe's sketch of a cave troll on the cover of Empire magazine. They're really leaning into, and then when Rohirrim was announced, they said John Howe and Alan Lee are doing the backgrounds and the conceptual designing. So it did feel familiar. But Cliff, again, Green Dragon expressed her opinion on the Hildebrandt brothers. I certainly did, and you guys didn't really agree with me. But I almost think, like, if Rings of Power is going to get inspired by something, it would be interesting to go more Technicolor, like the Hildebrandt brothers. A little more vibrant, a little more high contrast, lot more colorful, more saturation.
The Hildebrandt brothers have that quality of Eyvind Earl doing backgrounds and artwork for Sleeping Beauty. And the work that the animators had to do on Sleeping Beauty was really super specific, because Walt Disney wanted it to be a moving tapestry, a moving illustration, to let it look like that is like an illustrated manuscript that has come to life. So, I would think a visual reference to the Book of Kells, which is Tom Moore and the Irish production studio Cartoon Saloon. They also did Wolf Walkers and The Song of the Sea. Beautiful Oscar-nominated animated productions. Too bad none of them won, because at least one of them should have. But you get that quality of old school 2D animation looking at the Hildebrandt brothers. And it is not a bad idea at all for Rings of Power to embrace something like that aesthetic. That's not about it. Hey, how about that, Justin? I'm sitting here telling you that's not a bad idea. You better put that in the record books. That's not a bad idea.
Well, someone, Vixan in the chat room mentions Wheel of Time. The latest season of Wheel of Time is incredible. I don't know if you guys watching at home are caught up with Wheel of Time, but this season 3 is incredible. And it's very much more colorful, more vibrant. I mean, the sands, just everything about it is colorful. And I feel like Rings of Power would benefit from, Hildebrandt Brothers plus Wheel of Time season 3 just going more Technicolor, and let's bring out some of that magic. Like I feel like everybody's. I feel like there's such an opportunity to introduce Middle Earth, especially Second Age Middle Earth, not Third Age where the world is crumbling and the elves are leaving, but the Second Age Middle Earth should look magical, should look superhuman. With the grass is greener, the sunsets are oranger. You know what I mean?
The light is different. Yeah, I agree with that idea. Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat that's starting to speculate about, well, what if we ever get the Silmarillion? So skip right on through the Second Age and go to First Age. Is it anime? Is it derivative of the Jackson universe? Is it something completely different? Is it primary colors? So if we ever get that, that would be an interesting set of choices.
Were there any First Age pieces of art here? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the finals, Morgoth and Luthien was First Age.
Morgoth and Luthien. Absolutely.
Okay, so
Thingol and Melly was First Age.
What was that Marvel Christmas Halloween thing where it's all black and white? So a First Age one-off holiday special that is Morgoth black and white.
Oh, you mean when Marvel did Werewolf by Night?
Werewolf by Night. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Luthien and Morgoth shot all in black and white. Maybe it's animated like the Scott Free logo. I don't know.
That's good. You've got some very good ideas. I'm pleased that somebody mentioned the animator Genndy Tartakovsky and the stuff that he created for Samurai Jack. You should also look at a lot of his other work. What was the one, that big series he had? I think it was called Savage. It was about the caveman and the dinosaur who became friends, and it's completely non-verbal, non-dialogue storytelling. But as usual, Mr. Tartakovsky plays in visual extremes. There's a lot of forced geometry. His character designs have a lot of hard and sharp angles, thick outlines. His character designs are super unique and wildly expressive because he likes to play in the abstract. And he can get away with a lot of action, violence, hardcore action scenes with Primal. Thank you. The show's called Primal. Absolutely stunning animation in that series, Primal. And wildly effective because not a word is spoken. Completely non-verbal storytelling. But yeah, there's a lot of animators to look at. I would put my hat in the ring for the Silmarillion stuff to be live action, but there should be some intermodal sequences that are told as like this weird gauzy fairy tale that is someone within the Silmarillion telling a story within a story. And that's when we go to an animated segment. It was done very successfully with Hermione Granger in Harry Potter reading the story of the three brothers challenging death.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Silhouette animation. There's all kinds of styles of silhouette animation and interesting pieces like that where the Silmarillion could be done in a variety of different visual styles. So I'd throw my hat in the ring for that.
Sure. I mean, there's a part of that Beren and Luthien scene where they turn into a werewolf and a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, little anime action there.
But a lot of people are like, oh, what I remember most about Deathly Hallows Part 1? I remember that part where Hermione reads the book and we're suddenly taken into this weird silhouette animation. And it's a fully produced, 6 or 7 minute sequence. And then it comes back to the real life photography.
That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about with like
storytelling
taking
idea.
Big swings.
Yeah, big swings like that.
Visually.
Yeah.
I think several shows like that. Well, anyway, that's Middle Earth March Madness. Come back next March, but we've got some breaking news. We got some breaking news, guys. I want to get your feedback. Jim, you got some time? You got a few minutes
to hang out
with us?
Sure.
All right. Well,
thanks. Stick with us, Jim. It's a fun show.
Yay.
Well, this just popped in. Whew, this is a tough one. This just popped into our Discord, and
hold on. Before you mention that story, it is true.
It's here.
Last Wem said that there was the animated sequence in the Rings of Power season 1 where they talk about the Mithril or the Mithril Chlorians. Yes, there was that moment where they did that. Yeah. Anyway,
it wasn't designed enough. So Prince Charles Cinema in London, one of the preeminent movie houses in the UK and maybe the world, Prince Charles Cinema just sent this out today. Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy is getting pulled by the studio for the unforeseen future as of July. Don't miss our final performances of the trilogy extended editions, which will be all night and an all-day marathon. So you can get your tickets at the Prince Charles Cinema there in London. I think several other theaters around the world, especially in the US, are doing trilogy screenings over the next couple months. But this is the first time we're hearing of the studio pulling Lord of the Rings from theaters for the unforeseeable future.
So you're saying that this applies to all theaters who want to do trilogy showings?
That is the expectation.
Now, is this because they're planning to do some big anniversary re-release in 2026 or something?
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you, Cliff.
But wait, is the math correct? Are we looking at? Yeah, we're looking at the 25th anniversary next year.
Yes. 2001.
Has it been 20? Have I known you guys for 25 years now?
Stop it! I've known you since before George Lucas even made American Graffiti. I've known you longer than that.
I've known you since when you had blue hair.
Oh yeah. Well, when I had hair. Oh boy. Okay, but hey, this is a signal. This is a signal that the studio is trying to do something. I don't know what, but I guess the most reasonable thing is if they're doing these little independent theaters who do like a re-release, like, oh, look, the American Cinematheque once or twice a year here in Los Angeles. And they'll do a re-screening of the trilogy. They do it and all of our friends go. It's really popular. But if the studio is starting to say, boo, you can't do that, they must have a financial concern behind it.
That's right.
Go, Jim.
The only reason they would do that is we think we can make more money by doing fill in the blank. And whatever that blank is, that's what's on them.
How about that? Wow.
A little background on this note. Again, we've just received word that the studio is pulling Lord of the Rings from cinemas. If you recall, when pandemic closed everything for a year, here in LA we were closed for 2 years, and theaters went bankrupt around the world. There weren't a lot of movies to show for the last few years, remember? And then some of the studios decided to put their movies right on streaming instead of doing a theatrical release. Warner Brothers.
That happened to several big release films. Yeah.
So Warner Brothers, if you remember, pissed off Christopher Nolan so much by putting Tenet on HBO Max instead of theaters that he left and went to Universal and went and made Oppenheimer and made $1 billion and won a bunch of Oscars. But Warner Brothers did something good with Lord of the Rings. Warner Brothers said, if you're a cinema anywhere in the world, you can show Lord of the Rings. It was one of the very few movies from the library of Hollywood that they said people want to see Lord of the Rings on the big screen. Go ahead and show it. Just make sure it's the 4K, the extended editions 4Ks. So Warner Brothers has been very generous to fans and to theaters for the last few years, making Lord of the Rings available, extended editions on the big screen. Even Cliff, you and I saw it in 4DX with the shaky seats and everything like that.
That was
Too.
wonderful.
You saw it too, Jim, in the 4DX?
Yeah, here in Atlanta. Yeah.
It's an incredible experience. In fact,
Suddenly, Saruman is sending the snowstorms up to Cataflas, and then the snow machines and the wind blows in the theater. I love that stuff so much.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So this is a sign that open license to show Lord of the Rings in any local theater looks like that is ending, according to this new posting. Guys, is it a good idea to take it out of the market for a little bit and let that demand build for a big 25th anniversary re-release?
If it stops being broadcast on TBS, that's when you need to look out for that. That is the final watermark of the studio taking their library film out of public consumption. And it must be, Jim, I know you're with me on that. It must be because they want to maximize how they can monetize it as a special anniversary re-release. That must be what it's all about.
I mean, it's a remarkable thing. I mean, I guess Wizard of Oz would be an example. There aren't that many films 21, 25 years later that are going to have the powerhouse monetization potential that Lord of the Rings still has.
Totally. Do you
Exactly.
think they would do a special edition, extended edition? Do you think
The
they might add
Unicorn
things?
Edition? Who knows?
Would that be reason enough to pull it off the shelf, let our collective memory fade a little bit? And
well,
add some
here's what
extra
I have to
goodies in
say.
it?
Justin, in the past, you have suggested to me that there's a problem with identifying how Warner Brothers Discovery would want to pay for it, or who exactly within the studio structure of Warner Brothers is going to volunteer to pay for how much it costs to release this big unicorn edition. And I don't know if there's going to be so much of a problem now that Minecraft has made so much money. It's going gangbusters in the box office, way more than Warner Brothers had. Other projections on the earnings of that film were way less than what it ended up being. And we're only a couple of months away from James Gunn releasing his Superman movie. If everything goes the way that Warner Brothers really needs it to go, and they make mountains and mountains of millions and millions of dollars, then that answers the eternal question that we've had: who is gonna foot the bill? Warner Brothers internally will be able to pay for a restoration, 4K upgrade for theatrical release, and all the other things we talk about, including the bloopers, the unused footage. And there's hours and hours of unreleased Lord of the Rings footage. So I don't know if there's going to be a big problem unless other things go very badly in the current year box office for Warner Brothers. Justin, what do you think?
I think that's spot on. I think there's an appetite, and we're ready to go back to the movies and sit in a dark theater with fellow fans and cry and scream and get spit on by trolls and everything else that the 4DX experience gave us in the movie theaters. So I'd say that this isn't much to be alarmed about.
Otaku Senpai is correct. Max still has the entire Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogies collection, and the Rankin and Bass animated classics, and the Ralph Bakshi psychedelic animated film. Max is now currently streaming all of the above, including the brand new War of the Rohirrim. All the above.
Cliff, more breaking news. More breaking news from Peter Jackson.
Oh, tell me what happened.
Oh boy,
what
here
happened?
We go.
What's happening?
Folks, you're seeing it here first. Filmmaker Peter Jackson was the winning bidder of the actual Iron Throne from Game of Thrones.
Why would he buy that?
$1.5 million. He has bought the Iron Throne. What does this mean for the
Wow.
future of Lord of the Rings?
Wow.
Jim, your
I don't think it
response.
means. I think it means Jackson's got a lot of money.
And
I don't know that it has any implication of Lord of the Rings. I don't think we're getting a mashup of the Song of Ice and Fire.
he could have spent that money on the Unicorn Edition instead of buying that.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. Really.
Peter, where are your priorities?
Wow.
Get into the edit bay. Pay an
Wow.
editor. Let's see that Faramir wedding. Let's see Eowyn in her wedding dress. Like, what are you waiting for here?
Let's see those scenes of Arwen at Helm's Deep.
Guys, do you remember that it was proven that the Iron Throne, this actual
Wow.
prop, includes Glamdring.
Glamdring is featured prominently in that throne. Do you remember that, Jim?
No,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I believe you. Yeah.
We'll have to look it up. Let me look it up real quick
Yeah.
while Justin.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
Glamdring
Peter
in,
Jackson is
the
on the
Iron
mission to
Throne.
find all copies of Glamdring.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
Let me
I was
ask
just
you,
thinking, that's not that much more than Post Malone paid for, a piece of cardboard with the one ring on it.
hey, but that was one of one, and this is one of one as well.
Okay.
Let me ask
I
you
just sent it
this.
to you, Justin. I just sent it to you. Okay.
But I have an honest question for you guys.
Yes.
When we look at the Hunt for Gollum in the future Lord of the Rings movies from Peter Jackson's camp, Andy Serkis, we know that they love having fun. We know that they love putting Easter eggs.
Will this show up in the movie?
Should this show up in the movie somewhere? Hunt for
Only
Gollum.
in very darkly. I think it would have to be a deeply buried Easter egg. It's such a recognizable prop. But
Right? In the ruins. Look, Hunt for Gollum. Where does Hunt for Gollum take us? I mean,
everywhere.
could this be in Minas Morgul? Or where's Gollum captured and tortured?
Well, Gollum is captured and taken to Barad-dûr, the Dark Tower itself. He's also temporarily held captive by Thranduil's elves in Mirkwood. He's also dragged around by Aragorn across several locations. And the other characters have a lot of other places and locations to go to as well. Right, Jim? I mean, the possible geography coverage of the Hunt for Gollum could go on to many, many, many places.
it does. I'm actually, we did a panel on that at DragonCon one year, and I'm looking up my graphic. Because, the Hunt for Gollum involves a lot of characters and a lot of locations, depending on the choices of where they take the plot.
Justin just pulled up that moment where you recognized Glamdring behind Joffrey on the Iron Throne. There it is, plain as day.
Well, there you go. So that's breaking news. Peter Jackson has acquired the Iron Throne. Speaking of things that cost a lot of money, Cliff, happy to announce that Lego has announced
Yes.
a brand new Lord of the Rings The Shire set for $269.
Not as bad as Barad-dûr, I'll tell you that.
How much was
Wow.
Barad-dûr, Jim?
Oh, it was more like 600, 500,
Yeah.
600?
Yeah, it was much more expensive.
Yeah. This arrived at my house today.
Oh, this is so fun. It's going to be
Yeah.
You
beautiful.
got one of these?
I did. It arrived today.
And the
Oh
Rivendell
my
set, the
goodness.
Rivendell set was probably the most spectacular Lego set I've ever seen, and it was way more expensive than this. Yeah.
Wait, it's already sold out, guys. Look at this back order.
Oh, there you go.
No, if you go to downtown Disney and go to the Lego store, you'll find it on the shelf.
Oh.
It's there.
Oh, I bet back order it has to do with the tariffs going into effect at midnight. Like everyone's
gosh, yeah.
pausing sales of everything right now until they can update their pricing.
Well,
Yeah.
this thing, if you ordered it directly from Lego, came with a free gift, which was a Smeagol Daigle fishing scene.
Oh, how cool!
that
That's extra neat.
came along with, but that probably is sold out because that was, I'm sure, one of the promotional features of
Smeagol
buying
and
over.
Deagle, where you can have your little children recreate strangulation right at the
Yes,
dining room
exactly.
table.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
mean, that's what I
wrong.
did with my Legos.
So wrong.
Something yeah, right in the same price point is let me see if I can bring this up. A couple new things launched this last week. Huge success for the Lord of the Rings Fountain Pen, or no,
Oh yeah.
sorry,
That,
Middle
I
Earth
saw them.
Adventures Brandywine Festival.
Mm-hmm.
They smashed through their goal of $80,000 in one day. It's already up at over $250,000. 577 people are going to be doing a 5-day LARP in Kentucky. 300 acres of forest and rolling hillsides, tents and string lights and music and merriment and food and some quests that you can go on. Our buddy Matt, Nerd of the Rings, has been working on some of the storylines. He hasn't explained to me what that means, but there are storylines at this LARP. I still don't know what a LARP is. Have you guys? Do you guys know what it is?
It's live action role play. I mean, mostly you're hitting people with rubber swords and other things, but yeah.
Wait, role play, like I really have to like act. I have to be like an actor. I have to
They
take on the
yeah,
Well,
role
you
of a.
can.
they ask people to fully exist in their character, in their
Yeah.
costume, and behave with certain scenarios that are recreations. Not like when they do a Civil War reenactment, but more like when they do a jousting reenactment at the Renaissance Fair. But when you're doing LARPing with friends, they teach you how to fight each other with foam shields and foam swords, and pretend that you're having a skirmish, a battle on foot with evil
Like
orcs.
Boromir teaching Merry and Pippin how to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with foam swords.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Well, look at this
So
beautiful countryside they've got. This location is so beautiful, and it's going to be really interesting to have a big outdoor event with lots of food and tents, and hoping for very clement weather while they're going to be out there for it's a whole week long, isn't it?
yeah, it's
something like
five
that.
days. 5 days in October. I believe it's right before New York Comic Con. So after
Beautiful.
Dragon Con, before New York Comic Con. So tickets are available. This is some video from some other fantasy events that this company has put on. They really know how to do it, and it looks like everybody dresses up. You can see right there, October 7th.
Your
And
inclement weather point is interesting, Cliff, because this is happening right after a very long term and occasional gathering of Tolkien folks at the Shaker Village, a
Yes.
long expected party. There have been several of them, and because it's at the Shaker Village, there is lodging and big barns and places to escape when there
Yeah.
is inclement weather. I'm not sure about this venue, so I think you put your finger on one of the sensitivities that could occur at this
well,
event. We'll see.
mixed feelings about the location or LARP aspect. Look, I'd say, Cliff, you and I both drove on our road to Dragon Con through Kentucky. It's beautiful Appalachia, beautiful part of the country here.
Just gorgeous. So
The people are
beautiful.
nice. It's a dry county, but this is private land, so you can participate in your drinking and merriment, as you
Yep.
would expect at a
Sure.
Hobbit LARP. It's kind of like a Renaissance fair on I was going to say on steroids, but it's a Renaissance fair on pipeweed.
Renaissance
it's
Fair on Lembas bread.
there you go. So
But
that's
yeah,
that's on
the
Kickstarter now.
Renaissance Fair features the best aspect about any Renaissance Fair is going to the artists and all the booths they have. There's so many craftspeople and artists who make pottery, ceramics, leather works, metallic metallurgy, sword making, and cloth weaving and costumes and fabrics, candles and homemade soaps and arts and crafts. And it's one of the best things about it. So I imagine that they're going to have an outstanding collection of artists and tents where you can see what the artists and crafts people are selling. It'll be really cool.
You can see right there, it's only 1,800 tickets available. It's capped at
All
1,800.
All
They've already
right.
sold 577. So they're already 1/3 of the way to being sold out. So do get your tickets now. It's exclusively on Kickstarter. If you have a small business, like Cliff was saying, maybe you make scented candles, or
Yeah.
you are a cosplayer and you're a seamstress, or you make cosplay props. Maybe this is the place to have a little tent, have a little booth of your own. There's a contact form on Kickstarter, of course, but this is I imagine it's gonna be the first ever Brandywine Festival, and I expect more of them to happen, because this one's definitely happening this year. Let me see.
It's very exciting.
Let me see. Brandywine early bird ticket is $375. Gets you access to the Discord channel, so you can keep up with all the people planning to go, and maybe plan on group travel. Maybe you want to hit the road with some fellow friends. And then there's a bunch of other wonderful ceramic mugs and enamel pins and some other stuff. And there's upgrades to your experience, where you get a bigger tent if you're bringing friends and family. If you need to charge your phone at night, some tents will have electricity, little electricity portals. So just a wonderful.
Katie
wonderful
says
thing.
it's a little bit different than a Renaissance fair. It's more like a live-action D&D game, more or less, with a very Ren fair backdrop.
All right, there you go. I take it from the experts.
Really interesting. This is going to be so immersive. Very interesting indeed.
That's right. That's not the only Kickstarter we want to highlight. Did you see this, Jim? Incredible new Lord of the Rings
this is news to me.
Pen and ink collection. We teased this a couple weeks ago. It just launched publicly today, and it's already at nearly $250,000.
Wow.
For an officially licensed fountain ink collection. I don't know. Do either of you guys practice calligraphy or any of that?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah. There are three different kinds of inks. There's three different fountain pens, and you got to love fountain pens, I think. I've tried to love fountain pens. I just lose them, or I forget about them, or they dry up. And by the way, this is a steal, because they're pretty expensive, but if I think you can still buy a Monte Grappa limited edition gold fountain pen that's Lord of the Rings themed for something like $36,000. So it's less than that, but
that's a steal. Actually,
that's right. This is
look at the quality of the lines that these pens make. If you need a creative hobby, I highly recommend calligraphy. It is once you get the pens and the ink, you can just be practicing all the time at your leisure, and there's just something so fulfilling and rewarding about seeing your skills improve as you learn how to write Dwarvish and write Elvish.
On your Tingwar. Yeah,
I'm ready to get my illustrated manuscript, like the Book of Kells. Totally ready to do my highly detailed little border illuminations. No, honest to God, I don't have the instincts for this kind of patient skill. It takes way more patience than I have to do this properly. But when you do it right, it's amazing, and I really admire it.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's incredible. Ink in 3 different colors, pen in 3 different lacquered enamels. This is just Ferris Wheel Press is a well-known name in the space. It's an official Warner Brothers Discovery licensed product. And God, look at that pen. I just want that sitting on my desk.
This is their Shire one. They have a Gandalf silver one and a Sauron red one. So you can take your pick.
Oh, how cool.
Wow. And look at the details on the tip there.
Monica, that is so beautiful. She says, this might inspire me to write in Arabic. It's absolutely stunning, the kind of gorgeous level of artistry that they achieve with the Arabic language, because it is used artistically in so many beautiful cultural and religious ways. I love it. That's great.
Do we have man, I should have done some research. Did Tolkien write with a calligraphy pen when he was coming up with these languages?
I don't
Probably.
know. He was definitely experimenting a lot with calligraphy. If you've gone to any of the Tolkien exhibits in New York or Paris or Oxford, often you can see some of the variations that he took to the dark speech on the One Ring, and different forms of calligraphy. So he was, and his mother apparently was a particularly beautiful orthography, which I think was part of his inspiration toward art. And so I'm sure, I don't know what implements he used, but he was definitely both in the color and in the artistic approaches to his penmanship. It was important. That's why Hobbit contracts have to have so many signatures in red ink, as an example. So,
Huh. Yeah, look at the dawning silver. They've got
This
examples.
is really cool. The way they show these different inks that they have, that's really neat.
Yeah, it makes me want to learn how to write Tangwar. Like
Yeah.
oh, Tangwar is fun. Yeah. And you don't have to have a fountain pen. You can do it with a regular pen if you want.
Yeah.
I feel like this tool would make it easier somehow. Like it's all about having the right tool for the job, right?
I use in the past I've used an ultra fine Sharpie, because Sharpies come in the regular fat tips, but they also have ultra fine tips for those as well.
Just incredible thing. So this just
I
launched.
did Tangwar out of red cream cheese to make the one cheese ring that rules them all. So there are lots of ways that you can use it.
The one cheese ring. That's perfect.
This is let's see, early bird ink trio set. Where's the pens? The pens start at Canadian 220, about $156 here. For the early bird. Again, this ends April 10th, so you got 2 more days to get in on the early bird pricing here.
Yeah, and that's both for the pen and for an inkwell. So you're getting both of those for that price.
Yeah. Each pen is $220. Do they have a triple set?
I bet they do if you keep scrolling down. I haven't
$650 for the triple set, and you get the inks with it. And
don't know what tariffs do to that though.
Oh, it says the MSRP will be $923. So you if you get the triple pack during early bird pricing, you're getting $300 off.
Canadian,
pretty much. 286. Yeah, so it looks like you're getting 1/3 off the price with this early bird. So ends April 10th to get in on the early bird pricing. Let's we'll see how the situation comes up. Speaking of tariffs, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about it because that's just a downer news. But I do have good news about tariffs here in the United States. It is I've got some people on the inside that are saying that books and printed books, including comics, graphic novels, things of that nature, books, textbooks, school books, everything of books, it will be exempt from all tariffs.
So if you want to get that big, beautiful illustrated hardcover edition of Lord of the Rings that just came out, then it's going to be exempt from tariffs. That's good to know.
So that's the inside scoop I have on that. Hopefully it's true. One final note.
Intriguing. I hope that is true. That
this
would be good.
Prime Video started its awards effort We call this FYC, for your consideration.
FYC.
It's the next,
yep.
the next 60 days, the next like 2 or 3 months is going to be full of awards consideration events. And you can see right here that they had a costume designer event for all their Prime Video shows, including The Boys and The Rings of Power and The Wheel of Time. And what did they have on display? Galadriel's of Elf Avengers outfit.
Yes.
Jim, was this on display at our Comic-Con party last year?
I don't remember if this one was. There were definitely other Galadriel things that were on display.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was this one.
I don't remember if it was this one. I think
I remember
I don't think so.
Arondir's costume specifically.
Yeah.
I remember Arondir's and I remember Tom Bombadil.
Yep.
So this is so if you're in LA or New York and you get an invite to Rings of Power FYC event, do make an effort to attend. You might see some Lord of the Rings of Power stuff up close and personal.
Absolutely.
Form your cosplay so you can go LARP in Kentucky.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that'd be great. That's totally great.
Well, this has been a great show. Again, congrats to Peter Jackson for acquiring the Iron Throne. Congrats to Alan
can't
Lee
believe he bought that.
For another award. The Middle Earth March Madness 2025 winner.
Yeah.
And congrats to you fans for learning about artists and art. And I tell you, hundreds and hundreds of comments on our Discord, on our Instagram, here in the chat room of people discovering new art. And that's so rewarding. That's rewarding to me. Jim, thank you for all your hard work.
Absolutely.
Putting
Now
all this together.
we got to start planning for 2026. So off we go.
How many different pieces of music could we possibly call? I
Oh,
wonder about that.
Yeah.
Where there's a whip, there's a way, Cliff.
That's one of them. I would put that in. Yeah. Where there's a whip, there's a way. How about that? Oh my goodness gracious. You know what? Yeah, there's a lot of music out there. There's the Don,
and there's some great musicians. Yeah.
The Song Cycle done by Donald Swan, where
Yep.
Professor Tolkien provided Elvish script for the printed sheet music. There's so many. Of course,
a lot of operas that are out. Yeah.
There's a lot of operas, a lot of stage presentations. The one
Lord of the
man,
Rings
Lord
musical.
of the Rings.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin songs as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Total
if we
Led
go
Zeppelin
into
songs.
rock history, I mean,
You could bring in some real rock music. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that could be really cool for next year. Wild. Could be wild.
All right. Well, Jim, this is it's an incredible amount of work that you put in. Again, the OneRing.net. Everyone here is a volunteer. We all volunteer our time, and just the amount of work involved finding high quality artwork, images, and then links to the artists themselves, and narrowing it down. I mean, just thank you so much for wrangling all this, and for Green Dragon, helping you, both of you, like tag team this to put it all together. And thanks for making all the slideshow presentations. That we
it was fun. Thanks to one of our founders, Calligraphy, as well. He had a lot of fingerprints on this too. So
yeah, you did an amazing thing, Jim. You and Green Dragon and Chris was so great. So thank you again. Fabulous stuff. What a wonderful way to start spring. All the little cocoons outside my building now have beautiful butterflies coming out to emerge to the world. It is a time for transformation and renewal. That's what springtime is for us. And it's one of my favorite seasons. And it's wonderful to spend time with you. Both of you guys are great. And thank you for helping us put this show together. To the people in the live chat, everybody there from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, X, Instagram, and coming from our Discord, thank you for being with us as our wonderful worldwide audience, our community that continues to grow. And we love to bring this show to you every week. We will be back here next Tuesday at exactly 5 p.m. Pacific time for another episode of Torn Tuesday. You can follow us on all our socials at the One Ring Net, take out the dot. And you can find me, QuickBeam2000, at Blue Sky and Instagram. That's where we can talk and commiserate and have a really great time. Whether good or bad, I'm here to uplift people as much as I can. I try not to grouse about things too much, but you never know, might happen. I can see Jim's eyebrows raised. I can actually hear. I heard the sound of you raising your eyebrows, Jim. I heard that. That was wonderful. Okay.
And you know what? Thanks to Warner Brothers Home Entertainment
yes.
for hooking up a bunch of fans with the 4K and Blu-ray copies of War of the Rohirrim. It's available now. You can order it online. You can order it at your favorite website if you've got a local retailer that you like supporting. There's a bunch of stores that still carry DVDs. I highly recommend getting the Blu-ray. Physical media is really important. You never know what's going to happen with these streaming services and when things will disappear. So you buy the copy of War of the Rohirrim, you own the copy of War of the Rohirrim, and it comes with 2 discs. And there's some extras on the discs, and it's a really fun time. And I do recommend the Steelbook edition. But just owning War of the Rohirrim on disc should be a part of every Lord of the Rings completionist library.
Absolutely. I couldn't do without it. I could not do without it. It's going right there next to my 4K release of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, which I'm actually going to put on in the background while I get some writing done tonight. Thank you again. Jim, Justin, you guys are the best. Last one, you are so funny. Yes, thank you, Space Gorillas. I appreciate that very much. You guys, if you haven't, go to the theater right now and see Princess Mononoke before it disappears from Canadian and North American theater release. They expanded 300 extra theaters now showing Mononoke Hime in 4K, an extraordinary visual spectacle upgraded to 4K. You've never seen it like this before, so go check it out. There's your Miyazaki Minute, and I love you guys. As I always like to say, good night and good luck, or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye-bye, everybody.